When I first saw the characters on the stone below the money pit, I thought they were Roman numerals.
They discovered a strange stone lying right beside the money pit, covered in markings no one can explain. These aren't signs of weathering or natural cracks. They look like deliberate cuts made with intention. What makes it even more intriguing is its location, right next to one of the most heavily searched spots in history. Rick Lagina had walked past this stone many times without noticing anything unusual. It wasn't until a gyroscope operator, setting up equipment, poured water over its surface that the markings became visible. As the water spread, straight lines and precise geometric shapes appeared, symbols that resemble Roman numerals but don't quite match them. The discovery immediately raised questions.
It's odd, it's interesting, it's mysterious, and it was found near the money pit, which means we gotta chase it.
The symbols are unusual, mysterious, and clearly man-made. No one has been able to read or interpret them. What makes this even more compelling is that similar markings have been found before, on a U-shaped structure at Smith's Cove, located on the opposite side of the island. The patterns, the geometry, and the style all suggest they may have been made by the same hand. When Terry Martin noticed the stone, he called Rick over. Soon, Craig Tester and Dan Henske joined them. The group gathered around the stone near the base of the money pit. It wasn't buried or hidden. It had been sitting in plain sight next to the remains of an old well. Terry explained that it was the angle of the light that made the markings suddenly stand out. Many people had walked past it before, including Rick, without realizing its significance. It took a fresh pair of eyes to recognize that the markings didn't look natural. When water was poured over the stone again, the markings became even clearer. The group fell silent. The lines were too precise and consistent to be random. They weren't caused by geological processes like pressure or erosion. These cuts had direction and purpose. Someone had carved them intentionally, using tools, at a specific point in time. The shapes are mostly straight lines, with very little curvature. They resemble Roman numerals in style, but don't match any known writing system. The design feels familiar yet different, possibly older, or part of a specialized system that hasn't been identified. The similarity to the markings at Smith's Cove raises an important question. Could both sets of symbols be part of the same system? If so, it suggests a coordinated effort across different parts of the island, possibly by the same group of people. To investigate further, Rick took the stone to the research center and brought in geologist Terry Matheson and historian Paul Troutman. Matheson identified the rock as metamorphic greywacke, a common type of stone found on Oak Island. This means the stone itself could be local, but if it was placed intentionally, it was chosen carefully to blend in. After examining it closely, especially with water enhancing the markings, Matheson concluded that the evidence strongly suggests human involvement. Troutman agreed that they would need a specialist, someone experienced in ancient carved symbols, not just general language experts. Ideally, this expert would compare the money pit stone with the markings at Smith's Cove to determine if they belong to the same system. At this point, no one can say for sure what the symbols mean or who created them. But the possibility that they are connected and part of a larger plan spanning the island makes the discovery especially significant. Meanwhile, another important development was happening elsewhere on the island. Just a day before the stone was noticed, excavation work in the swamp along the eastern edge had been progressing quickly. There, a stone pathway had been gradually uncovered throughout the season. It appeared to be ancient and carefully constructed, suggesting it served a clear purpose. Shortly after, an ancient fire pit was discovered built directly into the middle of this pathway. This changed how the team understood the site. The presence of a fire pit in the road suggested it wasn't just used for travel, it was also a workspace. Activities that required heat, like metalworking or processing materials, may have taken place right there. As the team continued working, Gary Drayton and Michael John searched through the excavated soil nearby, while others focused on uncovering more of the pathway. Searching through the soil is often tedious, with little to find, but persistence can pay off. Not long after starting, Gary's metal detector signaled something. He uncovered a heavy, irregular piece of iron. It didn't have the clean, uniform edges of machine-made objects. Instead, its surface and wear suggested it was made before the Industrial Revolution, before standardized manufacturing. There were no casting marks, and its shape appeared handcrafted. This find, combined with the fire pit and the stone pathway, adds to the growing evidence that this area of the island wasn't just a route. It was an active work zone, used by people carrying out specific tasks long ago. The object had clearly been shaped by hand. Gary Drayton's working theory was that it might be a wheel bearing, the kind used around the axle of a heavy cart or wagon. Its purpose would have been to distribute weight and reduce friction, allowing the cart to move across rough ground while carrying a heavy load. Since it doesn't show signs of machine manufacturing, it likely dates back to before the Industrial Revolution, possibly even earlier. Gary brought the piece over to Dr. Aaron Taylor and compared it with other items already found along the stone pathway. A large iron ring bolt and fragments of wooden barrels. All of these were discovered in the same area, including the suspected wheel bearing from the nearby soil pile. Together, they point to one clear conclusion. They are all related to transporting heavy cargo. Each item fits into a larger system. The ring bolt could have been used as an anchor point near the shoreline, possibly to secure ships or lifting equipment. The barrel pieces would have held whatever materials were being moved. The wheel bearing helped carts carry heavy loads smoothly. And the stone pathway itself provided the stable surface needed to move these loads inland. This wasn't just a simple path. It was a working route, built for a specific purpose. Meanwhile, Miriam Amirot was carefully examining the edge of the pathway when she noticed something unusual, a small piece of coal. This stood out immediately because coal is not naturally found on Oak Island. Its presence means it must have been brought there by people. The most likely explanation is simple. It fell off a cart or load being transported along the road. Miriam quickly recognized what this meant. The pathway wasn't just used occasionally. It was an active transport route, and coal was one of the materials being moved along it. In that time period, coal wasn't used casually in homes. It was mainly an industrial fuel, used in furnaces, kilns, and metalworking, processes that required steady, high heat. If coal was being transported along this road, it must have been heading toward a specific operation that needed it. One possible destination is the pine tar kiln discovered on Lot 15, which would have required significant amounts of fuel. Another possibility is metalworking activity connected to the shafts on the island. Rick Lagina arrived and examined the piece of coal. For a moment, he was quiet. He had come to Oak Island searching for treasure, spending years chasing a mystery that had gone unsolved for over 200 years. Now, he stood on a stone road no one even knew existed a year earlier, holding a small piece of coal that told a different story. One of organized work, transportation, and infrastructure built long before modern searches began. When he commented on how excited they were to find coal on an unknown road, it wasn't disappointment, it was realization. The story of the island was becoming clearer. Earlier in the same season, the team had studied a site on Lot 15 believed to be a British military pine tar kiln, possibly dating back to the 16th century. Charcoal had already been found there, and some researchers suggested it might be connected to the original construction of the money pit. Now, finding coal on the stone pathway strengthens that idea. If the kiln, the pathway, and the money pit are all connected, then this single piece of coal isn't random. It's part of a larger, continuous operation. It links different parts of the island into one coordinated effort. To learn more, Dr. Ian Spooner plans to send the coal for laboratory testing. By analyzing its composition, experts may be able to determine where it came from. At the chemical level, coal from Britain can be distinguished from coal found in other parts of Europe. If they can identify its origin, they may also identify the people who brought it to the island. That could be one of the most important discoveries yet. As the investigation continued, Gary Drayton and Billy Gerhardt followed the stone pathway toward the eastern shoreline. As they worked, they began finding signs of wooden structures buried in the ground, remnants of framing used to support large-scale construction or excavation. This suggested that something significant had once been built at that location, something large enough to require structural reinforcement beneath it. While digging near this area, Gary uncovered a unique wooden piece. It wasn't made from separate parts joined together. It was carved from a single piece of wood into a perfect right angle. A clean, deliberate 90-degree shape. At first glance, it looked like a carpenter's square, a tool used to measure and create right angles. Gary brought it back to the research center, where Marty Lagina and historian Doug Crowell examined it more closely. After reviewing historical records of tools used by shipbuilders and early craftsmen, Crowell concluded that it might not be a carpenter's tool after all. Instead, it more closely resembled a stonemason's tool, used to measure and verify angles during construction. Such tools were essential in pre-industrial building projects where precise angles like 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees formed the basis of stable and accurate structures. If that identification is correct, it adds yet another layer to the story. Whoever worked on this island wasn't just moving materials, they were building something complex, using skilled techniques and careful planning. Doug Crowell explained that he had examined various historical tools, from shipbuilders to traditional carpenters, but the object most closely matched a stonemason's tool. On Oak Island, that distinction matters. Many of the group's researchers believe could be connected to the money pit were known for their skill in stonework, precision building, and using geometric markings to leave behind coded messages. As Marty Lagina and Doug Crowell studied the object, Crowell pointed out the level of craftsmanship. This wasn't a rough, quickly made tool for temporary use. It was carefully crafted by someone trained in precise work, where accuracy was essential, not optional. The quality of the piece reflects the expertise of its maker. Marty made two immediate decisions. The wooden tool would be sent for carbon dating, and Gary Drayton would head back out to continue searching. While the second suggestion drew some laughter, the carbon dating was the critical step. The swamp had preserved the wood well, and if testing shows it dates back 3 or 4 centuries, it could become one of the most important finds of the season. Meanwhile, researcher Terry DeVoe had been quietly conducting his own long-term investigation along the coastline of Nova Scotia. For years, he has explored rocky shores searching for ancient structures, carvings, and signs of human activity. Most of the time, he finds nothing unusual, but a few years ago, he came across something he couldn't ignore. It was a large boulder that appeared to have been shaped. Under the right lighting and from the right angle, the surface revealed what looked like a human face, a defined brow, nose, and jawline. The carving was deliberate and clearly designed to resemble a profile. Even more striking, the face was oriented towards the sea, as if looking out over the water. When geologist Terry Matheson examined the boulder, he noticed a clear difference in its surfaces. Some areas showed smooth wear, consistent with glacial movement from thousands of years ago. But other sections looked rougher and newer, suggesting they had been altered more recently by something other than natural forces. Beneath the boulder, small stones had been placed to hold it at a specific angle. These weren't random. They were carefully positioned supports, or shims, used to fix the stone in place. This detail is important. It shows that the boulder wasn't naturally positioned. It was deliberately set and stabilized. Positioning a boulder like this takes effort and intention. The person who did it would have needed to choose the right stones, adjust the angle repeatedly, and ensure the final position was exact. The fact that the carved face is directed toward the open sea suggests that orientation was intentional and meaningful. This wasn't decoration. It was likely meant as a marker, and it shows the same level of care seen in the carved stone near the money pit and the symbols at Smith's Cove. Each time a new carved mark or carefully placed object is found, the same question arises. Could all of this be part of a larger system? Instead of a map drawn on paper, it may be a map built into the landscape itself, using stones, carvings, and alignments to convey information. The stone face could be another point in that system, a marker left behind by people who expected someone, someday, to understand the bigger picture. This isn't the first time Terry DeVoe has led the team to such a site. On an earlier visit to the Nova Scotia coastline, he showed them carvings believed to resemble a Templar cross, possibly hundreds of years old. That discovery suggested the mystery of Oak Island might extend far beyond the island itself. Now, with this second site, a carved and carefully positioned boulder facing the sea, it becomes even more likely that the activity connected to Oak Island covered a much wider area than previously thought. Looking at everything together, a clearer picture begins to form. The stone pathway through the eastern swamp appears to have been a working cargo route. The iron ring bolt found near the shore, the barrel fragments, and the possible wheel bearing all point to the same function: transporting something heavy from a ship inland across the island. The presence of coal on that pathway supports this idea. Miriam Amaral quickly recognized it as transported material, not something naturally found there. Laboratory analysis ordered by Dr. Ian Spooner may reveal where that coal came from. Since coal from Britain has a different chemical signature than coal from mainland Europe, the results could help identify the origin of the people involved. The wooden tool found near the shoreline adds another layer. Likely a stonemason's instrument, it was crafted from a single piece of wood with a precise 90-degree angle, something only a skilled worker would produce. Carbon dating will determine whether it comes from the same time period as the other artifacts found along the pathway. Marty Lagina prioritized getting that test done immediately, recognizing how important the result could be. Back near the money pit, the carved stone with mysterious symbols continues to raise questions. Its markings closely resemble those found at Smith's Cove. After examining it, Terry Matheson concluded that the evidence strongly suggests it was shaped by human hands. Historian Paul Troutman has recommended bringing in a specialist in ancient carved symbols to study it further. What makes the discovery even more surprising is that the stone had been sitting in plain view for an unknown amount of time. It simply hadn't been noticed properly until Terry Matheson happened to see it under the right conditions. Sometimes, solving a mystery doesn't require finding something new. It requires seeing something familiar in a completely different way. The carved stone face found along the Nova Scotia coastline, carefully positioned and fixed in place to face the sea, suggests that whoever was active on Oak Island didn't limit their work to the island itself. They moved across the surrounding landscape, leaving intentional markers behind. For years, the focus of this mystery has been the money pit. But now, the carved stone discovered beside it may be just as important. It could hold an inscription that explains why the pit was created in the first place, what it was meant to hide or protect. So far, no one has been able to interpret the symbols. The discovery itself came down to a simple moment. Terry Matheson was setting up a gyroscope near the money pit when the light hit the surface of a nearby stone at just the right angle. Something caught his attention. He paused, took a closer look, and realized it wasn't natural. That same stone had been there all along. Many people had walked past it over the years without noticing anything unusual. Now, the challenge is finding someone with the right expertise to understand what those markings mean. Whoever carved those symbols did it with purpose. They likely believed the message would eventually be seen and understood by the right person. It's possible that someone with knowledge of ancient carved scripts could recognize the style immediately, identifying its origin, time period, or even the people who created it. If you have any insights or knowledge about symbols like these, sharing your thoughts could help bring new understanding to the mystery. And if you're interested in following discoveries like this, stay tuned for more updates as the investigation continues.